Hey, Dr. Shelby, great seeing you.
Great to see you. We just
Uh,
had a conversation on wake up calls. I want to keep going with it.
Same here. One thing that I'm drawn to share is the importance of, when you're having in a wake up call moment. Like I know I've had in my life quite a few. I mean, I think of probably one of my biggest ones was when I was 18. I was going to school to be an accountant, and I was just miserable at it and was not liking it. I felt lost. I felt this wasn't on my path. I didn't know what to do. I remember just being really stressed about my life at that point. I was 18, and and then I had this massive car accident that put me in the hospital and almost died. And I didn't understand about wake up calls back then. But in hindsight, when I look back on that years later, I was like, wow, that accident was really waking me up to get me on the path of doing what I love doing, which is then that led me to chiropractic, which led me to the universal laws, which led me to be teaching today. And so those massive wake up calls, when you have those in your life, it's important to know how to ask quality questions when you're in it so you can move through it. Because if not, we can get stuck in the revolution in that wake up call and just kind of feel trapped by it and not know how to get out. So I think it's important we can maybe share some quality questions that people can ask themselves when they're feeling like they're in this wake up call moment, they're in this transition period. What do you ask yourself to move through and learn the nuggets of wisdom that are there?
Oh, I love that. And one thing I wanted to highlight about your story, and first off, I didn't know that you're going to school to be an accountant. That blows my mind. And I can totally see how your life course
Oh,
corrected to bring you to where you are.
I
But
would have been a horrible accountant. I just, can you see me sitting in front of a computer trying to analyze? Oh gosh, you would have been miserable. So anyway, it was a big call for me. So go ahead.
Well, one of the things I just see you now, if you're doing that, you would be getting so many body symptoms from if like me picturing you doing that now, I see you depressed, overweight, maybe a lot of anxiety, just like unhappy and not motivated, hard time getting out of bed. I would see your body giving a lot of fatigue just to like literally get you to stop doing that. And one of the things you highlighted is at that point in time when you're 18 is like, you're really stressed. And so just think of that for a moment. If you're watching this video right now and you think of doing something and it brings up anxiety, it brings up a whole lot of stress, wake up to that. That is feedback from your body that whatever's going on, it's either not in alignment, the timing's off, or there's something there that's not in alignment. So that's like the first starting point, is like just notice in that moment. So what do you do, Dr. Dave? What are some questions like to get that wisdom of the wake up call if you're experiencing it now, or you're getting this feedback? Like what questions do you
Yeah.
ask yourself or your clients?
Yeah, I like to recommend that you get really present in the moment with that, and then ask yourself what is the message that this wake up call is trying to teach me? What is the learning that I'm not getting that this moment is actually trying to tell me? How is this serving me to be going through what I'm going through, and how is what I'm experiencing now going to benefit me now and also in the futures? Because we're not going to experience something without a reason for it. It's not a random experience you're going through. There's some nuggets of wisdom that are wrapped up in every experience that we ever have. And so to be able to take yourself out of it for a moment and just look down on it and be an observer of your life and look at the whole life and say, how is this experience? What is this thing trying to teach me? What can I learn from this? How can I grow from this so I don't have to keep repeating this over and over again? Because when you don't learn the lesson from the experience, you're just going to find it again in a new form and even probably bigger challenge. So it's wise to just stop and reflect and ask the quality questions. How can I capitalize on this? How is this serving me? What can be the takeaway from this experience that I can grow from? And for me, when I was 18, I didn't know how to ask those kind of questions. But when I look back on those years later, it was really obvious what was happening. And the universe is saying, hey, this path is not it. You're not an accountant. You're a healer. You're meant to be healing people. And that was the most important wake up call in my life, is to get that car accident. So you can look back on these experiences and have gratitude for them and not have regret or wish it hadn't happened, but instead you have love and appreciation for every experience you've ever gone through.
I love that. So well said. And, when you're talking about how something happens, you experience it. And if you're not seeing the bigger picture of why this is happening now and the feedback that your body, your relationships or your environment is showing you, it'll repeat again. And so the most obvious example I think of right off the top of my head is, clients who I have that end up being in the exact same relationship they're trying to avoid. And it's like the same thing keeps happening over and over and over again. And for me, it's like, if I keep having this like reoccurring thing happening, the first thing I could do is like step back and be like, why is this happening now? Like, what am I missing here that is trying to reveal something to me that I'm blind to in this moment? And so I think that's a really important thing, whether it's, in your finances, you seem to have the same pattern with, maybe you get money coming in, but you just can't keep hold of it. Or in your relationship, you keep having the same arguments over and over again with your personal relationship or even people at work. And it's like the same theme, same pattern. Or your health. It essentially becomes chronic, whatever dis-ease you're having in your body. Those are things to look at and identify. And it's like, why is this still here? Why isn't it healed? Or why hasn't it shifted? Or why hasn't it transformed to give me a different outcome? And so I think those are great questions to ask that, as we just open this can of worms of a wake-up call, there's another conversation I want to have in the next video that I think is going to be really important to discuss. So, if you're liking this conversation on wake up calls or have any questions, feel free to shoot some messages below. Dr. Dave, do you have other comments you want to add to that?
No, I think that if you're on a path of growth, you're going to experience wake up calls. You're going to experience feedback. So it's not about being upset by them or annoyed by them. It's about embracing them and realizing they're an important part of your life. And if you choose to learn the lessons, then you can transcend them. If not, you'll repeat them. So I think it's really important to be able to just step back non-emotionally and really tackle these transitions in life, by asking quality questions. So that's kind of what we love doing with our clients. So if anyone has questions, send a message and we can help you through whatever you're going through.
Perfect. Awesome. Well, let's get on that next video then.
Looking forward to it. Bye-bye.
Okay. So, it's so funny. We're having these multiple different conversations, but we really want to continue talking about wake-up calls. And, some big ones that I see specifically are physiological feedback from your body. A big one's fatigue, anxiety, and stress and overwhelm. And those are some really big ones that I see. And I wanted to provide a little bit of insight, a little reframe of a possible angle of why you might be experiencing that. So let's just say you're waking up each morning and you're just so you think about going to work and doing what you're doing. You're so tired, or maybe the stress, bells go on right away. You're feeling overwhelmed, or maybe, your body has a physiological response and you begin to get anxiety of just thinking about doing what you have to do at your job. And that right there, I want to point out, is feedback. And we were talking about in the previous two videos about wake-up calls, and your body's constantly giving you feedback. So, the fatigue, the anxiety, the fear, the stress, the overwhelm. And so really paying attention to that. Now you're probably thinking, well, why is that happening? And one of the things I've noticed with, especially right now during this time, what they're calling the Great Resignation, and that a lot of people in their jobs are being like, you know what, I'm done with this job. There's just so much stress on high levels that I'm done doing this. I'm actually moving into more of what I actually truly want to do. And so I invite you to consider, when you think about what you're doing in your job, where you're at with your job, your level of satisfaction, your level of inspiration, but also your body and how it's responding, is really get clear on, is this a wake-up call? Are these subtle nudges telling me that what's going on and what I'm doing is not in alignment with what I truly love to do? And the reason we get stopped in this area is we're subordinating to other people's values. I was actually just in a conversation with a chiropractor the other day, and she was mentioning that, I would love to do this, but I have to and should be doing this. And just listening to that language, I said, well, what if you just did that thing that you wanted to do? It's like, well, but I have to do this. And it's like, according to who? This is your life. This is your business. This is what you're creating. So in that moment, she's subordinating to what she thinks a chiropractic business should look like, a chiropractic like lifestyle should look like, and what a mom should look like. And so here's the thing I told her. I said, you know in your heart what you want to do. And if you go against what inside is truly meaningful to you, you're going to get the symptoms that are going to bring you back into alignment to do the thing that you wanted to do already. So would it make most sense and be most efficient if you followed what you actually wanted to do, as opposed to subordinating to others people's values? Because that's what it comes down to. And this right here is a big thing with wake-up calls. We do things we should do. We do things we have to do that aren't necessarily in alignment with what we'd love to do. So I'd love to hear your comments on that and what you've noticed about, people's the wake-up calls and feedback, and how it's a sign or a symptom of subordinating to someone else's values.
Exactly. And I think that subordination is also a feedback that's letting you know that you're probably not real clear about who you are and what your values are. So when you're not clear about who you are, you'll tend to adopt other people's values as a way to try to, manage your life. And reality is, the very first step when you're getting the feedback is, let's get really clear again about who you are. What are your highest values? What are your drives? What are your priorities for your life? And that's the starting point. And what I've noticed with clients is, when they're in that same situation, is when they get clear on their values and they really look at their life, it becomes really obvious that, wow, I'm really been subordinating to the shoulds and have tos from my authority figures, and not following my heart and living according to my highest values and my purpose. And so that's like step one, I think, is no matter what's happening, if you're feeling that feedback, that's a good sign that it's time to really get more clear about your highest values, which will give you insights about what choices to make in your life that's based on your values and what's right for you as a person, as opposed to like you said earlier, is, the language of got to, have to, shoulds, and ought tos. Those are indicator language that you're subordinating. And when you're intrinsically automatically saying love to, choose to, and desire to, that's an indicator that you're in your highest values. So I would say that I see a lot of clients and, and patients over the years that when they were really getting a lot of feedback in their life, they're in those lower vibration energy languages of the got tos, have tos, and shoulds, and out of their inspiration of love to. And so I think it's super important that we take that time and get clear on your values again, and get clear on your priorities, and then choose to live according to that, and just see what happens. And in my experience, when I personally do that, or see clients do that, their physiology normalizes, their stress levels go down, they get more clarity about their vision, and they just feel more fulfilled in their life. So
yeah. Oh, totally. And one thing, I'm just chuckling, I was chatting with a patient in my chiropractic clinic this past week, and I mentioned to him, it's interesting that the numbness and tingling that you're experiencing seems to only come up on Mondays. And then when the weekend comes around, it's gone. Why do you think that is? Oh, I don't know. It's really weird. And I'm like, do you think it could be stress from work? Right. And I hear this all the time in the practice. I'm sure you have too. It's like, it's interesting that people's body symptoms, pain, numbness, tingling, upset stomach, all that kind of stuff, headaches go away when they're doing something that they love. And when they're, when they're on vacation, or when it's the weekend, or when they just did something that was really inspiring and everything was great. And then when they went back to what they were previously doing, all of the feedback comes back, right?
totally.
And mainstream medicine is, well, let's literally suppress that pain because I don't want you to feel it. Well, it's actually there for a reason, and it's there to get you to change and to get you aware of what's just not working.
Totally. And no doubt, when I had patients in my practice, when I was in the office, some of the worst health conditions were coming from people who are in jobs that are doing things that aren't living according to their values. They're subordinating. They're in the got twos and have two states. And again, yeah, their physiology and disease processes is way worse than people who are actually self-actualized. They know their values. They live according to that. There's where the health benefits come from that as well. So super important if you're looking to improve health, have an inspiring relationship, find the career that you love doing, build your wealth, get clear on who you are, get clear on your values, stop subordinating, and get on to living that inspired life that we're all here to live.
Yeah. Well said. Cool.
Thank you.
Great to see you.
Great one.
Until next time.
Bye-bye.
What up, Dr. Dave?
Hey, Dr. Shelby.
We have a really great topic today, and that is, I've had 2 clients just this week say, I don't know how to follow my heart. I don't even know how to like listen to my heart. And there's so many different places we can go here. One of the biggest things that I'm going to offer to, if you're struggling with, I don't even know how to discover what I truly want or what's in my heart or what to do about, this decision, is it's an indication that you're subordinating to other people's values and ideals and what's important to them. And when we put other people on a pedestal and we're thinking that what they have, what they're doing, who they're being is more important than what we, are doing, that's when we begin to inject their value system into our own, which creates a lot of cloudiness and a lack of clarity in what we truly want. And I often see this with clients who are really, the people pleasers and are really challenged with saying no to people. So, what do you see, Dr. Dave? I'd love to hear your thoughts on this.
I think this is a really big stress for people that are maybe trying to really follow their heart, really follow their highest values, is the anxiety around not pleasing someone because they might upset them. If they really truly decide to do what they love doing, then some people are going to be upset about it. And I always like to share with my clients that either way, you're going to cause stress somehow, either within yourself for not following your heart and not listening to your values, or stress externally from others that may be upset about you following your inspiration. And, I always suggest, if you're going to have that choice between, John talked about pissing yourself off or pissing other people off, choose the other people, because you have to live with you, and inside what is your inspiration and how and what it means to follow your own heart. And so what I like to share with my clients is that just observe what happens. Don't be attached to how people respond to you following your inspiration. Just be an observer of how people choose to respond, because we can't control how people react. We have no control over that. All you can do is be in control of your own choices and actions. And I find that the people who really truly love you and know you and want the best for you will support you following your highest values. And the people that you might think love and support you and want the best for you, they will get upset with you if you following your highest values means they don't get what they want from you. And that's a very likely scenario. So don't be attached to trying to please everyone, because it's impossible to please everyone. You're going to have some people like your choices and some people aren't going to like your choices. No matter what you decide to do, whether you follow your highest values or not, you're still going to have some people support and some challenge you. So you might as well choose to follow your inspiration and live according to your values, and allow the external world to adjust to that decision and not be attached to who hops on your bus or not. Some are going to like it and some aren't, and just allow that to be. Because look, if you think about your life, do you have the same friends that you had since you were kindergarten? Probably not. People come and go out of our lives because we change, and as we change, then the people in our lives change. That's very common. And so learning to not be attached to people liking you and liking everything you do is a really important part of growth, I think.
Well said. And what I'd like to even build on this is, as you said, you can't really control what other people, how they're going to choose ultimately to react. And so the actual pain of someone not being happy, whether it's yourself or someone else, is conserved, right? And so one of the underlying pieces of that is there's an actual bigger cost to your health when you continually choose other people's responses and reactions over your own. And they've done numerous studies on different diseases. I believe the one that's coming to mind right now is breast cancer, and how they found that there was this common thread of underlying resentment. And that, if you just think about it, think about being really in an angered state, having resentment, frustration, and imagine that's just consistently underlying your day because you're not wanting to say no to other people. You're feeling like your needs aren't being met. You're not able to express yourself. You're not able to do the things that you'd love to do, and constantly, molding yourself to fit other people's needs and values. Is that resentment's going to build over time. And there's a lot of research to show that when you have an emotion such as anger, resentment, frustration, it has a physiological response in your body, and it impacts it literally at the cellular level. What is allowed in and out of the cell is impacted by your emotions. And they've shown that when you're in a more balanced state, enthusiasm, inspiration, love, you have the most vitality of your system and your health. And so if you're consistently choosing other people's opinions and values over your own, you're literally creating dis-ease in the body. So that's one of the hidden drawbacks that a lot of people don't think about when they're people pleasing. It's like, oh, I don't want to upset them, so I'll just create more internal stress within myself. And long-term, that has a big impact.
I see the same thing over the years in practice for sure. So it's just it's a common, people pleasing is a common thing that I think we see out there as we work with people. And so it's one of the most important, I think, aspects that we can learn is how do we put ourselves first, listen to our values, choose to do what's inspiring to us, and not be attached to how others react to that. And I know that it was a journey for me as well earlier in life to really go down that path. And what I've seen in myself and my clients is that when you can actually get into that state of really choosing you, watch how your physiology normalizes, like you said, and watch how diseases and symptoms start clearing up. And the feedback that you've been getting that's trying to get you to be true to your highest values starts to go away. So such a great topic I think for this audience to hear is if you're having feedback in your physiology, is it because you're trying to please others and you're putting their needs over yours? Because if you are, your body's designed to give you feedback because you're not here to please others. You're here to love yourself, live according to your values. You have a mission here to serve, and it's not to please others. It's actually self-actualize and do what you love doing.
Yeah, well said. Awesome. Thanks for the
Great
wisdom.
one. Thank you for it. That was a great topic. Looking forward to the next one.
Me too.
Boom. Hey, Dr. Shelby.
Okay, so last video we talked about is your, people pleasing, sabotaging your health. And one of the things I've noticed with clients who have a hard time saying no to someone is how do you teach them to be able to say no easily? And one of the first things we consider when we're working with a client is, well, what are your values? What is most important to you? And one of the things I've found is the more I'm clear on my purpose, my vision, what I'd love to do, saying no becomes a whole lot easier.
Yeah, good point. I feel the same way. When you're clear and you're confident in yourself and who you are, it is easier to say no and not waver. And I think that the people that I notice are not very clear and not really sure in themselves are the ones that have the most difficulty. And it's just, you can just feel the anxiety. Even clients been in tears about having to say no to someone that they may have on a pedestal. They're subordinating. Those are the tough ones. When you put someone on a pedestal, you really are so anxious about saying no because you're afraid of that person not liking you because you have them in high regard. And so when you are true to yourself, saying no becomes a lot easier. And it's a muscle that you have to really actually practice doing. And the first time you do it might be really anxious. It might be challenging. You might be sweaty. You might be nervous. But the more you can actually learn to say no and realize that, wow, the more I say no, the better I feel physiologically. And I've noticed that no one's actually getting that angry, and everyone's okay. And it's actually all right. And I always like to share that when you say no to something that you truly aren't inspired about doing, you actually leave that space open for someone else to come in that actually is inspired about and wants to say yes to something. But when you say yes to something you really mean no to, you're in the way of another person that could be in there doing the thing that you don't want to do. And that could be their dream job or their dream thing to do, but you're in the space. So get out of the way by saying no to things you're not inspired about. Yeah. So you can leave that space open for someone to step in and be inspired about that.
Oh, I think that's such a great piece to add is, yeah, there is always support and challenge in any moment. And oftentimes you think you're going to leave that person hanging, but really I remember one time I had a friend who was going through a really challenging time, and I did not have the space or the intuitive, like my intuition was saying, you can't take this on. Like, this is just something it's a no for right now. And I remember saying no. And then also knowing that there's going to be someone else that's going to step up for her. And sure enough, they did. And I remember chatting with her like a year later and just like, hey, I just wanted to check in and see how you're doing and how everything unfolded for you. And she was like, I was really upset that you weren't there for me. And I actually said to her, I'm like, who was though? Because I knew that there was going to be someone else that stepped up in that place and fulfilled that role. And she said, well, actually, this girl here, she came in and it was really great. And, she actually lived near her. So it was perfect. She got that in-person contact, whereas I'm all the way across the world for this person. So the perfect person stepped in for that friend at that time. And it actually freed up space for what I was focused on that would have taken away from what I was doing in that moment. And so I invite you to consider that, we are all supported and challenged in our own ways. And if you have that hard time saying no, because you perceive someone's going to be left hanging, they're not. There's always going to be some form of support for that individual in some way, because there's always support and challenge in any given moment. So well said.
And, I think that there's this guilt, and there's this perceived guilt and shame that you might have by saying no. But so one of the quality questions that you ask in the moment is, how is it actually going to serve this person in their experience that I actually say no to them? How is it going to benefit them? That's a quality question. The second one is, if I say yes to this when I mean no, how is it actually a drawback to that person? That, and one of the common answers to that question is, they're getting a person who's not inspired about doing something, helping them, as opposed to a benefit is I get out of their way. They attract someone that comes in that really was inspired about it. And how is that going to serve this person better than if I was in there doing it and with resentment? And so again, I think it's about going back to these quality questions to ask yourself in the moment to dissolve any emotions around you being true to yourself. And when you ask those quality questions, you can see how it serves you and the other person by just being true to you. You dissolve that guilt and shame about just being yourself.
Yeah. And here's the paradox I've noticed as I've really stepped into saying no to what's not in alignment in the moment, is that I actually get more respect from those individuals. Initially I would think, oh my gosh, I'm totally ruining the relationship, or, and there still have been emotions around it, but the respect is there because people, someone who's in alignment on a purpose, doing their inspired mission. And one of the biggest things they often see is it's not personal. It's just, you're so focused on doing what you love, and anything outside of that, it's not going to feel great. So allowing yourself to just really be authentic to what's
Yeah.
inside of you and your own way of how you'd love to move forward is actually more in service to yourself and the other person that would be receiving whatever it is in that moment. So important to just really listen
Beautifully,
to.
beautifully said. Right on. Beautifully said. Thank you for sharing that last piece. That was awesome.
Awesome. Until next
So
time.
listen, if you're out there and you're struggling with saying no, and you know you are, because you're one of those people that you look through your life and you always had trouble saying no and subordinating, maybe this is the wake-up call. Is this that you're listening to this right now, and it's time to really start to learn how to change that. And so that's just and that's easy to do. Maybe you just need some help navigating this, and this is what we can help you with. So if you have any questions, DM us and let's help you through this journey.
Yeah, love it. Awesome. Thanks, Doc.
See you later.
Peace. All right, Dave, we're on a roll here, and another piece of the puzzle we wanted to share that's so in alignment with people pleasing. And if you're a people pleaser, how do you or what's the importance of setting boundaries for yourself?
Yeah, it's such an important thing because it's a source of anxiety for so many people to say no. But we just want to reiterate how crucial it is for you and your physiology and in your areas of life that you are really following your inspiration, living according to your values. And so one of the benefits as well of when you say no to someone, when you really mean no, is you're actually letting them know your boundaries. You're setting your boundaries. You're putting your stick in the sand and say, this is who I am. This is what I will and won't do based on my highest values and who I am as a person. And when you can share that truth to someone, as opposed to saying yes when you really mean no to try to please others, you actually are letting people know more about who you are, what's important to you, what are your values, and what your boundaries are in life. And so now that stops the future continue asking of you by other people to do things you're really not inspired by, because now they know you. You've given them an insight about who you are and what you're about. And so now they know, you know what, I'm not going to ask him that because he's made it clear who he is and his boundaries. Or, you know what, he's perfect to ask because he's made it clear about who he is and what he is willing to do and not do. And so to me, this is it's a great way to communicate to others who you are and what you're willing to do and not do when you really speak your truth and say no when you mean no and yes when you mean yes, and just stick to that.
Yes. And two pieces there is, one is no one likes to be on the reciprocating end of, hey, do you want to do this with me? And the other person really is not inspired to, but they say yes anyways. That doesn't feel good. But when you, have a relationship with someone and you ask them to do something and they say yes and they mean it, it's much more fulfilling. And you just have, that you can also trust what the other person is saying. And when they say something, they actually mean it, versus if you're with someone and they say yes to things that they actually mean no to, and vice versa. It becomes so challenging to really know the person and have that, confirmative yes, if this is what I want to do, or the opposite. Right. And so for me, I think that also brings out that clarity, right? And so, just in your example that you were using earlier, if you say no to someone and you're revealing more of who they are, yet they still try to get you to change your mind, well, that gives you clarity about that person of, do I want this in my life? Is this a person that I'm going to go to for, these particular things? So I think it not only does it give other people that sense of they can trust you in your word, but then also it gives you clarity on who you want to be around, right? Because if someone's pressuring for you to do something that's still outside of your values, and you've communicated that, is this person in alignment moving forward?
Totally. And you're sending mixed messages to someone when you say yes when you mean no. You're giving them a false impression of who you are as a person as well. So they may have an idea about who you are and what you like and what your values are based on you saying yes to something you mean no to. And now at one point, because eventually you're going to build resentment, and then at some point you might actually blow up and say, you know what, I actually never liked doing this. Now it's confusing to the person because you said yes all this time and they thought one thing and now you're telling the other. And so it's wise just to speak your truth from the beginning so everyone knows where you are and what you and how you think about it. So then there's no confusion. And now, again, I think that creates more respect on both sides. And now you can create more of a connection with the people that you truly want to be connected to and not have it be more false connection where, you know, that you're actually pretending to like something when you're actually not, you know?
Totally. And I'm just chuckling here because I'm thinking of this, like, you know, innocent or example when I was a kid and, you know, do you ever hear about Thai beanie babies? Do you remember those? Like those little beanie babies that are all the different animals.
Yeah.
And I remember going shopping and my brother's like, hey, do you like this iguana? And it was Iggy the iguana and he holds it out. And in my heart, I was like, no, it's ugly. Like, I'm just like this little kid. I'm like, who would like that beanie baby? In the moment, I was like, yeah. And then literally Christmas comes around the corner and I'm like opening up my present from my brother and there's Iggy the iguana. And I was so disappointed. I was just like, oh. And in that moment, I was like, I'm never telling, you know, I'm telling my brother the truth because this is going to impact my Christmas gifts.
Perfect. That's such a true thing. You're the one who created it, right? Because you said yes when you meant no. Perfect.
Yeah. And think of how many other like things in a relationship where, you know, people are like, yeah, I like it, when really they don't at all. So the partner gets that person, buys that trip, buys that thing or whatever, you get it. And you have so much resentment of like, oh, I actually like really don't want this.
Yeah. Yeah. And to me, yeah, in relationships, it's such a great thing to be with people who really speak the truth and tell you really what they really want and don't want, because now you're clear about who they are as a person. And that gives you the opportunity to decide, okay, I know them on a whole different level. Do I still resonate with this person now that I know them truly? And that gives you the opportunity to create really meaningful connections with people from an authentic space, as opposed to trying to connect with someone who you just really don't resonate with.
Yeah, so well said.
Great topic. I think everyone out there probably has had experiences around saying yes when they mean no, or no when they mean yes. And this is the opportunity to start learning how to have self-mastery and governance over who you are and when to say yes and when to say no without any kind of guilt or shame, and just being certain and confident in who you are as a person.
I love it. So well said. Awesome. If you have any questions or any particular topics on how to say yes, how to say no, drop them below. We'd love to talk about them.
Great topic. We'll see you soon.
Fun. Okay, so we've been having some really great conversations the last, 6 videos on creating your boundaries, people pleasing, how that impacts your physiology, saying yes, saying no. And one thing I'd love to bring up and just continue talking about is how saying no creates intimacy with your partner. And you're probably thinking, huh? Like, I don't really understand. Well, let's define intimacy. Intimacy is when individuals are truly being their authentic self and revealing and showing who they truly are, which creates that closeness, that intimacy. Because you can imagine if I'm pretending to be someone I'm not, and I'm just wearing this mask right here, you're only going to be able to get as intimate to me as this mask allows you to. But as I begin to reveal my true self and what I truly want and believe, and I remove these layers and these masks and personas that I've been playing, that actually creates less distance between you and I. So if you're a people pleaser and you have a hard time saying no to someone, what you're doing is you're actually putting up these walls between you and the other individual and not revealing or allowing your true expression, true self to step through, which creates that distance essentially between like your hearts, right? And who you truly are. And so when you are able to just say exactly what you mean, no, I don't want this, or yes, I'd like this, to say your partner in a relationship or to a friend, they're actually able to see you as who you truly are And that right there creates more intimacy, less space between you and that other individual.
Completely. I agree with that. And also, I feel that you also give up your power in a way, when you subordinate to your partner like that. And again, yeah, you put the wall up and you subordinate, and then you slowly build resentment inside for the other person, which is a disconnecting energy. And I think it's there's something powerful about being vulnerable enough to speak your truth in the relationship. And I've noticed over the years that vulnerability actually creates more intimacy when you allow yourself just to speak your truth and just put it out there with your partner. Because if you're with someone who truly loves you and you have a connection with someone and you allow yourself to be vulnerable, it's going to actually enhance the connection between you both, and it gives your partner also the opportunity to be vulnerable themselves, to speak their truth. And so it's a very powerful thing when you can actually learn just to speak your truth to the other person in a way that meets their values and yours, to try to create that win-win situation. Again, like we talked about in the last video, when you say no to your partner around something, you get out of the way, and that creates the space for someone else to come in that maybe they could have more of a connection with in that area. And so it's a very powerful thing to be vulnerable and speak your truth to your partner. And if you want to enhance intimacy, this is such a good way to do it, is by just speaking your truth and be honest about who you are as a person.
Yes, well said. And one thing I'd like to just build on that is, saying no or speaking your truth, whether that's a yes or a no, with the person you're talking with, that creates intimacy between you and them. And in the exact same moment, that's creating more intimacy and trust with yourself, because your intuition's constantly saying, hey, let's do this, or let's do that. Yes to this, no to that. Hell yes to this, hell no to that. And when you begin to squash that voice and not follow through with what your body innately is saying, I want to do this, you're then also not having that intimate relationship with yourself. So not only, when you are not being authentic with someone else, you're creating distance and space from them and putting up a bunch of masks, you're also creating that cloudiness and, mask within yourself of who you truly are, which is, in my opinion, more detrimental.
That is such a great point to bring up, is, yeah, if you don't love yourself enough and have intimacy with yourself enough to just speak your truth, and how are you going to actually have that with another person externally? So this is such a great step to learn how to create more intimacy inside, open your heart to you by speaking your truth, and just allowing whatever occurs externally from you speaking your truth, allow that to be what it is and just go with the flow. Because you can't, if you're loving yourself and speaking your truth, then you're going to attract that externally to come back to you in the same area. So such a great point to bring up.
Yeah. Love it. Awesome.
So if you find yourself having anxiety or stress in the relationship you're in, and maybe you don't feel that there's that connection where you can just be honest and open to your partner right now, and you feel that there's a disconnect, that's a great feedback that might be there to wake you up to say, okay, let's start making some changes. Let's learn how to communicate more effectively together as a couple, so that we can create more intimacy between ourselves, and really make that a stronger connection for each other, right?
I love it. And yeah, if you'd like, we're not taught how to do this. So if this is something you're struggling with and you want to learn how to build the skills to do this is something that we love helping people with. So shoot us a message below.
Love it. Great topic. Great talking to you today. Looking forward to next time.